Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to Audiobook Dynasty. If you want early access and even more parts for free, make sure to join me on Patreon. Chapter 1. Where is this? Am I not dead? The teenager muttered to himself as he opened his eyes. Darkness, primal chaos surrounded him and he can't see any radiance. In the teenager's memory, he should have been hit and killed by a speeding truck. Ah, you are already dead. An ethereal voice suddenly sounded in the space of primal chaos, which made the teenager nervous in an instant. You, who are you? Calming himself, the young boy asked. Who am I? You will know, one day. After a little silence, the ethereal voice rang again. Just as the teenager was about to ask something more, a radiance suddenly flashed in the darkness primal chaos space, and a bright treasured jade floated in front of the teenager. Despite the soft light from treasured jade, the teenager subconsciously blocked his eyes with his hands. It's called Sacred Gear Plunder, and it can plunder any Sacred Gear's artifact. Make good use of it and then pass it on to the next generation. He couldn't understand what the other person was saying, what artifact Sacred Gear, but just as the voice fell, the treasured jade which was shining in the air rushed into the teenager's body. No, the dying teenager has no body, only the soul. The mysterious treasured jade rushes into the soul of the teenager, and then merges with the soul of the teenager. Confusion, uneasiness, restlessness, stunned the teenager saw an illusory figure in the primal chaos space. He didn't know who the other party is and what the other party wants to do to him. The teenager wanted to shout but he finds himself incapable of speaking. As the treasured jade merges with the soul of the teenager, the whole space begins to vibrate, twists, and collapses, and then turns into a black whirlpool, instantly swallowing the soul of the teenager. Hey, what is this place? I don't know how long it took for the teenager to open his eyes again. Clearly it is subconscious self-talk, but the voice that came out is like a baby cry. Sir Phenex, son, this is our child. Tamako, you are too weak, use the tears of Phenex. A beautiful woman and a resolute man came into view. The woman caressed herself gently. Her pale face was full of love and gentleness. The man held the woman in his arms with concern, and there was a rare joy on his resolute face. They are his parents. Although it's only for a moment, the baby with a young man's soul knows it all at once. He seems to have gained a new life and become the couple's child. Although it was not clear what kind of world it was and who his parents were, the teenager quickly accepted the fact. Anyway, there is nothing for him in his old world. It seems good that he can get a new life and have parents he never had in his previous life. However, Phenex, this surname seems to be somewhat familiar. With doubts in his mind, the teenager who has turned into a baby soon fell asleep in a drowsy way. Time is like running water, passing away in the rogue, 10 years later. 997 998 999 1000. Haha. In the yard, a young boy put down the long sword in his hand and wiped the sweat on his forehead and gasped. The 10-year-old boy has short black hair and black eyes. Although his handsome cheek is still quite tender, he has a trace of calmness that does not belong to a child his age. It is only natural for him who has already experienced life and now living his second. Going back to the house, he washed all the sweat from his body. The teenager took some ingredients from the refrigerator and walked into the kitchen. There seems to be only one teenager in the big room, which seems a little lonely. Kamiya Tenraku, the name of the boy in this world. 4 years ago, Tenraku's mother died, his mother's name was Tamako, and Tenraku's also inherited his own mother's surname instead of his father. His mother seems to have had some terminal illness long ago. According to the doctors, she was able to give birth to him and raise him until he was 6 years old. It is an incredible miracle. Tenraku knows that this is a miracle called maternal love. Tenraku was sad for a while after his mother's death, but he was able to pull himself together. Even if you are sad, life will continue, not to mention that he promised his mother, every day in the future he will eat well, sleep well, and live hard and strong. Well, there will be many beautiful and capable wives to take care of himself in the future. As for Tenraku's father, he's a devil, a real devil. There is no joke, but literally, Tenraku's father is a devil, and he is the famous Phenex, one of the legendary 72 pillars of Underworld. There was some doubt at first, but Tenraku has been in the world for 10 years and Tenraku has already fully confirmed it. This world that made him get a new life is a world of anime called High School DxD that he had seen in his previous life. Ikai, elf, devil, angel, fallen angel, even heavenly dragon and gods, these existences that should exist in fantasy, are real in this world. Although he thought at first that he might just be reborn in a world similar to that anime where devils exist, Tenraku's had no doubts when he realized that there was a Hyudo couple living near his home and they had a baby called Hyudo Issei. Having a devil for a father and a human for a mother, he is a hybrid of human and devil, he has gathered the excellent genes of two species. Tenraku's thought that he should have been an extraordinary existence. However, the ideal was beautiful, but the reality is so helpless. Maybe Tenraku's mother loved him a little too much. Tenraku got his hair from her, his eyes were also from her, and even Tenraku's handsome face, which made a lot of girls jealous. Therefore, the gene of his devil father seems to be completely covered. Tenraku does not have any ability to practice magic, nor can he awaken the blood of the Phenex family, even the most basic devil wing. Ever since then the news of House of the Phoenix's waste illegitimate child spread in Underworld. Those who cannot awaken the blood of the immortal bird are not eligible to inherit the name Phenex, so Tenraku's inherited his mother's original surname. Although Tenraku did not care much about it, his mother took him away from the Phenex territory and returned to human world to take care of him until she died 4 years ago. After his mother's death, Tenraku's father, a contemporary family lord of the Phenex family, suggested that Tenraku should return to the Underworld, but Tenraku's rejected it. He has become accustomed to the place where he lives with his mother, and he has the ability to take good care of himself after 2 generations. He is free here without any restrictions. Itadakimasu. Putting the dishes on the table, Tenraku patted the palm of his hands and started to eat. Well, it tastes good, his cooking skills seem to have improved. The world looks like an ordinary and peaceful world on the surface, but in fact, devil, angel, fallen angel, and even the legendary foreign-shaped goblins and vampires are all real in this world. Although human beings are the majority population of this world, those devils and gods are the true masters of the world. Many people give gods faith in ignorance, trading with the devil is a common thing here, and the majority of these people spend their lives in ignorance. Tenraku is clear that this seemingly peaceful world is actually very dangerous. Ordinary human beings are too fragile and they can die very easily in this world. Whether it's the angel or devil, or these foreign races, they have never stopped fighting, but by manipulating human memory, they have kept humans living in a hypocritical peace, and only a small number of people with power knows the truth of everything. Since he came to the world, Tenraku didn't want to be an ordinary mortal. Maybe he would be killed one day while being on the road if he remains powerless by any stray devil. And as a hybrid of human and devil, it also made him destined to not spend his life in peace. Since he cannot be an ordinary person, he will be powerful. If he doesn't have the ability to practice magic, then he will do physical exercise. If he can't use magic power, he will use spirit chi. Tenraku has been working hard every day since his mother's death. What ideal and future, these are too far away for him, now he only needs to think about becoming stronger and stronger. As a 10-year-old boy, other children of this age live carefree childhood in school, but Tenraku has no time to waste. Every day, besides eating, sleeping and occasionally going out to buy food, he practices swordsmanship in the yard of his home and exercises himself. He was just an ordinary mortal in his previous life, but since he is born again in this dangerous but wonderful world, Tenraku also has his own ambitions. To achieve his ambition, he needs to become a powerful force that cannot be ignored. Tenraku went out of the house and tied the longsword in a cloth bag behind him. He can never be a real strong man by building a car behind closed doors. He also needs someone to give him advice. Mom, I am going to the park to play. A teenager ran out of the nearby Hyudu family house, biting a piece of bread in his mouth and running past Tenraku. There was a glimmer of color in his eyes and Tenraku's heart was somewhat delicate. No one would have thought that such an ordinary-looking teenager could not be more ordinary, but the protagonist loved by the world. That's right, the boy who just ran past Tenraku's is Hyudu Issei. At the moment Hyudu Issei ran past his side, Tenraku's clearly felt a strange sway in his body. This is not something strange about Tenraku's, but another thing that is in his body. Sacred Gear Plunder, what the mysterious man put in Tenraku's body, he was able to plunder sacred gears of others. It does not require any awakening, nor any practice. Tenraku's ability to plunder any other artifact sacred gear from their host, as long as Tenraku's willing. It is an innate ability of his. Although it doesn't have any power in itself, there is no doubt that this is a terrible sacred gear. Although he did not have the ability to practice magic and he could not awaken the blood of the immortal bird, but Tenraku's never cared about it, and this is where he is. With such a powerful sacred gear coupled with the future information of this world that can be counted as prophetic foresight, as long as he did not die a premature death, Tenraku's will be strong. Despite the restlessness of the sacred gear in his body, Tenraku's forced it down. Hyudu Issei possesses one of the highest level sacred gear Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, one of Tenraku's long-planned sacred gears, which Tenraku's tried to capture once after his mother died 4 years ago. Sacred Gear Plunder's ability is beyond doubt and Tenraku's ability to take Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear out of Hyudu's body is unhindered, but just when Tenraku's thought he was going to succeed in obtaining Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, the energy of the sacred gear caused a huge change in his expression. The violent and powerful energy almost smashed Tenraku's body apart. Despite the timely release of Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear, Tenraku suffered a great deal at that time. If he hadn't used Phoenix tears on his body, he would have capsized. Although it was ironic, Tenraku's failure also made Tenraku realize his weakness. It became clear to him that even though such a powerful force is available, he can't have it because of his own weakness. Since then, Tenraku has been training himself desperately. To gain great power, he must first make himself strong. Weak people do not deserve strength. Although the Kamiya family and the Hyudu family are neighbors, they do not usually have any contact. Even Tenraku and Hyudu are only distant acquaintances. That's Tenraku's intention. After all, he's determined to take Issei's sacred gear someday, so he doesn't plan to deepen their relationship, so he won't feel too bad after taking the sacred gear in the future. Meeting Hyudu Issei was sincerely short-lived and it did not set off any storms. After the Issei left, in a little further distance, Tenraku stopped in front of a house. DxD. He knocked on the door and not long after, the door was opened, and a man dressed in a priest suit came out from the inside. Uncle Shido. Looking at the tall man in front of him, Tenraku greeted him politely. Apparently he also knows Tenraku, and the man has a gentle smile on his face. It turned out to be you Tenraku's, come inside. This is not the first time that such a scene has happened. The other party also knows Tenraku's intentions. Without saying much, the man returns to the house, and Tenraku follows in. However, just after entering the yard, a figure flew down to Tenraku. Tenraku, here you are. Unexpectedly, two people rolled a few laps in the yard, and the other party sat on Tenraku's body. Suddenly, Tenraku was thrown to the ground by a young girl with short chestnut hair. Although she was young, she was beautiful and her big purple eyes added a little loveliness to the girl. Hello, Irina. You're a girl, don't just sit down on the boys so casually. Lying on the floor watching the girl, Tenraku spoke quietly. Oh, because it is Tenraku, it doesn't matter. Tenraku, I practiced hard yesterday. Let's fight again using our swords. I will not lose to you this time. Happy and lively, the girl did not care about the current situation, but she stood up from Tenraku's body, and then took out a long sword, looking towards him. It seems that some people said the same thing to me yesterday, but they still lost to me. No, I'll never lose this time anyway. Hi then let me see how much progress Miss Irina has made. Are you ready? Hey! Ching ching! In the courtyard, Tenraku and Irina come and go and attacked each other. Despite their young age, their swordsmanship is quite remarkable, both of them looked veterans at first sight. And they did not use wooden swords used for training, but real steel swords. Ordinary parents would be frightened to death if they saw their children chopping at each other in the yard with real swords, but Irina's father, the man named Shido and uncle to Tenraku just stood there calmly and nodded and pointed out various instructions from time to time. The Shido family are devout church believers. Irina's father was a plain priest on the surface, but he is actually a powerful church fighter. Maybe he's a long way from the top, but he's strong enough to teach Tenraku and Irina. Ting! Sparks flew as another collision of swords occurred. Irina's longsword was shaken out of her hand by Tenraku. At the end of the test, Irina lost. That's 365th time, Irina, you lost again. His long sword stopped in front of Irina and Tenraku smiled slyly. Woo hateful Tenraku, you even remembered how many times I lost. Sitting paralyzed on the ground, Irina heaved up her face angrily, with an unwilling look on her face. Although she always said that she would never lose again, she never won against Tenraku. Fortunately, Irina had a bright nature. If it was some other kids instead of Irina, they would have been given up. Irina, do you know why you always lose to Tenraku? In fact, Tenraku is not as talented as you, but he works hard, harder than you, harder than anyone else. Shido said. I understand, father, I will definitely work harder in the future. Standing up, Irina replied solemnly. In fact, Tenraku has already achieved a high level in Irina's eyes. She knew clearly about his hard work more than her father and she recognized Tenraku's in her heart. She is just unwilling to accept her losses because she has never won against him. She looked at Tenraku's from the corner of her eyes and couldn't help but blush. Whether it is a young loli or a mature girl, as long as they are normal women, they will like handsome and hard-working boys. Looking at his daughter's appearance, Toji is not clear on what to think and shook his head while laughing. Little Tenraku, Irina, come and have a snack. With a gentle voice, Irina's mother came out of the room with two delicate plates of snacks and fruit in her hands. Mom! Sorry for bothering you again, Aunt Shido. Irina ran over with joy, and Tenraku's also greeted the woman with a good manner. Irina's mother is a very gentle woman and Tenraku has always been taken care of by her. Smiling and nodding, Irina's mother handed them snacks and fruit. Although it's just some ordinary snacks and fruits, it's delicious and delicate. Even Tenraku misses his mother's taste and can't help but take a few more bites. Looking at their daughter and Tenraku, the Shido couple looked at each other, and a smile appeared on their faces. It's not just Irina, but even they are very interested in Tenraku's mature, courteous and hard-working nature, it's hard to imagine that Tenraku was only a 10-year-old child who lived a strong life after his mother's death. In the Hyudu family next door, the naughty boy is about the same age as Tenraku's and Irina, but he only knows how to stack planes and play with mud in the park all day long. They heard that some time ago he often went to a perverted idiot to see Oppai comic. As a result, he learned all about Oppai comic. At a young age, he became a full-fledged pervert. The couple couldn't help but sigh. This really is the case where some people are just better than other people but the goodness in their life is gone. Tenraku, did you think about what I said to you before? With your talent, as long as you join the church, you will definitely get the focus. As if remembering something, Toji suddenly said to Tenraku's. As a devout church believer, Tenraku's talent is so good that if he did not join the church, it would be a waste of talent in Toji's eyes. So he proposed this to Tenraku long ago and revealed some church secrets to him. Of course, these secrets are nothing more than how powerful the church is. The world is not as peaceful as it looks on the surface. In addition to the great gods and the angels, there are evils in the legends like the devil, Ikai, and so on. The church, led by God, is to protect humans from harm, how radiance is great, and so on. Although Tenraku also knows that Irina's father is saying it is for his own good, he naturally cannot promise to join the church. Now it is not yet in the era of peace and friendship between the major races of the original late period. The devils and fallen angel are evil heretics for the church, and there will be no mercy when they know his true heritage. If he joins the church and lets them know that there is still half of the devil's blood in his body, he's afraid that he will be purified. Sorry, Uncle Shidu, I am used to being alone, I really don't want to join any organization. Shaking his head, Tenraku's directly refused. Shidu Toji's eyes flashed with a bit of disappointment and he was ready to say something else, but Irina's mother interrupted. Honey, just preach in church. Don't do that at home. Don't force little Tenraku to join the church if he doesn't want to. When he heard his wife's words, Shidu Toji could only shake his head with a smile. Oh, forget it, everyone has their own destiny. Since you don't want to join the church, I won't ask more. Actually, because of some matter of the church, our family will move to the UK in a few days. If you join the church, we can take you with us, but unfortunately. Tenraku's heart was moved by the words of the other party. He remembers that the Shidu family moved abroad in the original book. Although he came to this world, the original fate is still following its trajectory. Now it is almost the time. Uncle Shidu, Aunt Shidu, no matter where you go, you will always be my beloved elder, and Irina will always be my best friend. Tenraku said sincerely. Apart from Shida's family, he has almost no contact with other people. Although Tenraku's heart is also a bit sad to see them go, he can't really join the church and go abroad with them. Well said. Stay here for dinner tonight, let your aunt prepare some good food, don't refuse this time. Shidu Toji laughed and patted Tenraku on the shoulder. Although it was a pity that Tenraku was not going to join the church, he became even more interested in Tenraku. Touching his nose, Tenraku naturally could not refuse, and he could only nod his head in agreement. Because of other things, Shidu Toji left first, and Irina's mother, after instructing them to exercise carefully and be safe, returned to the house to prepare for dinner. Tenraku's, why don't you join the church, don't you believe in God? I told you that God is really there, and not only God but there are also the powerful beautiful angels. After her parents left, Irina was quite excited about Tenraku's. Irina hopes that Tenraku will also join the church and leave with them so that she would not be separated from Tenraku, but even though she was a little cheerful and nervous, the girl's instinctive reserve still prevented her from saying that kind of direct and bold words. Ah, the god was there, but he is dead. The corners of his mouth are slightly raised and Tenraku replies in a deep voice. Hearing his words, Irina was shocked and quickly put her hand over Tenraku's lips. Tenraku, don't say that again. If your father hears it, he'll be angry even if it's you. Irina's face was white and solemn. For a devout believer, Tenraku's words just now are totally rebellious and can be considered heretical. Fortunately, Irina is still very young. Although she was taught to believe in God by her father when she was young, her faith is far less intense than that in the original book. So Tenraku's words did not make Irina angry but rather worried that her father would be angry when he heard them. Rest assured, I will only tell Irina this secret, because Irina is special, and I believe in Irina. What is special? Suddenly saying something like this, Tenraku's is really. I'm saying Irina is special, but I didn't realize that Irina has such a lovely side, Woo darn Tenraku, you dare to laugh at me, I am going to kill you. 3 days later, Tenraku saw off Shidu and Irina's family at the airport. Tenraku, I will be back and I will beat you next time when we meet. With her little fist in her hand, Irina had a fierce face, but her eyes were full of intense reluctance. Ah, I'll wait for you, but I'll be stronger too. You'll never win against me. Tenraku's fingers were gently on the girl's forehead, but Tenraku's face returned expectantly without any expectations. Work hard, boy. Only by becoming a real strong man can we appreciate the wonders of the world. Little Tenraku, take good care of yourself in the future. If someone bullies you, call your uncle and aunt. Mr. and Mrs. Shadu told Tenraku's a lot, and Tenraku's listened carefully. They won't see each other anymore and they will meet years from now. Uncle Shadu, Aunt Shadu, Irina, have a good journey, please take care of yourself. Though reluctant to part, the moment of departure finally arrived. Under Tenraku's eyes, the family waved goodbye and boarded the plane. Sighing a little, Tenraku turned and left, but there was a glimmer of determination in his eyes. Although he is still very weak now, one day he will become a real powerhouse, and then he will realize his ambition and appreciate the wonderful world. Back home, Tenraku began to pack his luggage. Mr. and Mrs. Shadu and Irina have left, so he's about to start his own journey. Yet, Tenraku's was ready long ago. He's going to walk around the corners of the world, hone his practice, and look for powerful sacred gears. However, before he can travel, he has to go back to the underworld. After sorting out his luggage, Tenraku took a piece of paper from the drawer. On the piece of paper is a complex magic square, and in the middle of the magic square there is a winged flame bird. After a little meditation, Tenraku mobilizes his pure magic power and enters it into the magic square. The next moment, with great light, the magic square flew out of the paper, and then, under Tenraku's gaze, a figure came out of the square. His Highness Tenraku. Graceful and tall, a beautiful woman with magic staff in hand came out of the magic square. The woman has long purple hair and a beautiful face which is quite charming, but what is more interesting is the arrogance and pride on her face. Yubelina, take me back to the underworld. Quietly removing his eyes from her, Tenraku said. Yes. Nor did she say much. The woman named Yubelina put her hand on Tenraku's shoulder. At the same time, the magic staff in her hand suddenly spread out into a magic square. With a flash of light, the two disappeared. Underworld, where devil, corrupt angels, and many ghosts live, is the same size as human world Earth. In the jungles of the mountains and rivers, in addition to the purple sky, there is little difference between Underworld and human world. Phenex, as one of the 72 pillars of the Upper Devil Society, has a vast territory, even comparable to a small country of human world. At the center of the Phenex territory stands a magnificent castle, the main residence of the Phenex clan. At the same time, with the flash of brilliance, Tenraku and Yubelula appeared in the castle. Tenraku Unii-chan. Just after being transferred, a tiny figure fell on Tenraku. The girl of about 7 or 8 years old wearing a beautiful princess dress, although young, she is very beautiful and cute. Especially the pair of blonde drills which is even more cute. Ravel Phenex, the girl's name, is also Tenraku's younger half-sister, the noblest little princess in the Phenex family. Ravel, did you miss me? Holding Ravel up, Tenraku smiled. Well, I miss you very much, Tenraku Unii-chan. Gift, my gift, Unii-chan? She nodded her head forcefully and looked at Tenraku with big, watery eyes expectantly. Hi, the gift for my cutest younger sister Ravel, I will definitely never forget it. Tenraku took out various little gifts that have been prepared for a long time. Although they are not very precious things, they make the little princess in his arms filled with joy, and the big beautiful eyes bend into lovely crescents. In addition to Ravel, there are several other girls who have appeared together. A girl in armor, Cheongsam girls with sandbag heads, twin girls with lovely beastly ears, Kwangai girls with huge swords, maids in the combat department, kimono girls like Yamato Nades Hiko with half of their faces covered by masks. At first glance, many would think that they are a strange group of girls. Long time no see, Carlamine, Swollen, Isabella, and everyone. Smiling, nodding to the girls, Tenraku greeting. Long time no see, Your Highness Tenraku. With different looks, the girls also saluted back. Including Yubelina, they are all the girls collected by Phenex family from all over the world with excellent qualifications. They will work as both family ministers and chess pieces, in the future as peerage to serve the successor of the Phenex family. Although Tenraku lives in human world most of the time, he also returns to Underworld once in a while. He is familiar with these girls and has a good relationship with them. Well, the bastard son, the waste that humiliates the immortal birds, what are you doing back here? A sarcastic voice sounded, which made the original good atmosphere stagnant. Tenraku and all the girls looked in the direction where the voice came from and saw a handsome blonde teenager leaning against the wall not far away, just holding hands and looking cold with a look that said, I am powerful, don't provoke me. Riser Phenex, one of the 3 men of the Phenex family and brother to Tenraku and Ravel. Oh, Riser, I'm really sorry to have humiliated the immortal bird. You must have been laughed at by other nobles outside with junk like younger brother like me. For better or for worse, Tenraku's will naturally not be offended by such a little irony. Not only was there no anger, Tenraku even laughed. Looking at his half-brother, Tenraku was in a slightly delicate mood, because this brother was robbed of his engagement by Hyudu Issei in the original book, and lost a duel in front of the Devil King and various powerful men, which made him stagnant. He is one tragic and hard-pressed fellow. And after hearing Tenraku's teasing, Razor, who was a little unhappy, looked even worse. As Tenraku said, because of his waste of younger brother, he was laughed at outside by other nobles. Just as Razor was ready to sneer at Tenraku, it was Ravel's crying voice that rang out. Tenraku Unii-chan, Razor Unii-chan, don't quarrel. There was still some anger to break out, but Razor could not help feeling soft when he saw his younger sister pleading, but he still could not put his face on the concession, snorting coldly. Hump, I won't quarrel with a waste. Father summoned you, don't waste his time. Throwing a cold sentence, Razor turned around and left. Tenraku said nothing more. He comforted the little princess in his arms and walked into the castle with Ravel in his arms. The Phenex family castle is very grand and magnificent, which cannot be overstated by the splendor of the Golden Wall. As one of the 72 pillars that survived the ancient wars, coupled with the tears of Phenex, the holy medicine of revival, the Phenex family has amassed amazing wealth for countless years, even in the whole underworld. Many servants shuttled around the castle, busy with their work, but stopped to salute after seeing Tenraku's and Ravel. Ravel, as the most beloved little princess in the Phenex family, no one dares to disrespect her. As for Tenraku, although he is a mixed-race illegitimate son who can't awaken his blood and has a reputation as waste in the whole underworld, his father is their master and the servants cannot be disrespectful towards him in this hierarchical devil world. Passing through the corridors, it didn't take long for Tenraku's, who was holding Ravel in his arms, to come to where his father, the Phenex contemporary family lord, lived. The blonde-looking middle-aged man looked the exact same as when Tenraku came to the world. He did not change. In addition, there is a woman in the room. She is beautiful and charming and has a noble temperament. She looks like grown Ravel. Mother, father. Father, madam. Ravel climbed down from Tenraku's arms and threw herself into the woman's arms. Tenraku's dressed his jacket also paid his respects. You came back. Well. You know, you can call me mother as Ravel does. His father, the family lord, is still as dignified as ever, but Ravel's mother, who is the wife of the family lord, looks at Tenraku's with some bitterness. Tenraku feels embarrassed and he touches his nose. Although his stepmother is very good to him, it's weird to call her mother. His real mother is Tamako, and it's awkward to call someone else's mother again. Since you have come back, stay for a few more days. Don't get too close to the priest's family in the future. Uncle Shadu, they don't know my true identity, they have been taking care of me all the time and they have moved abroad now. Despite being in Underworld, the Phenex family lord was very clear about Tenraku's situation, and after hearing Tenraku, he nodded with satisfaction. After hesitating a little, Tenraku finally said, Actually, I'm coming back to say goodbye this time. My swordsmanship has reached the bottleneck, so I'm going to go out and practice. It's estimated that I won't be able to come back for a few years. Tenraku's words make the room quiet. Ravel was the first to come back to her mind. When she heard that her Tenraku Unii-chan was leaving for several years, she could not help but rush to say, Tenraku's Unii-chan, where are you going? Just stay at home. Yeah, Tenraku's, the world outside is too dangerous, don't go out. Ravel's pleading voice made him feel pity, and the care of his stepmother made Tenraku's heart warm, but Tenraku still shook his head. Although, if he stayed in Phenex territory all his life, no one would dare to bully him even if he was called a waste outside. But that is not the life he wants. It was not easy for him to regain his new life and come to this world. He did not want to spend his life in mediocrity anymore. He wanted to find his own brilliance and go to the top of the world to have a look. Even if he loses his life, he won't regret it. Have you already decided? He took a deep look at Tenraku and eventually his father opened his mouth. Yes. Nodded, Tenraku did not hesitate. Now that you've decided to go, the Phenex men shouldn't be obscured. What surprised everyone was that his father, who was a family lord, actually agreed. Perhaps this man has already understood his determination, and Tenraku's heart cannot help but raise a strange touch of emotion. I won't send anyone to protect you, but if you die, even by God's hands, I will avenge you. Thank you, father. If you want to leave, don't rush for a while, stay here for a few days, and then go. Yes. Including Tenraku's, Phenex family lord has 4 sons and daughter, the third one is Riser Phenex, fourth one is Kamiya Tenraku and the fifth one is Ravel Phenex, and 2 older brothers are the eldest and second son. The eldest son and the second son have grown up, and the eldest son, Ravel Phenex, has been established as the family's next head. He represents the family's participation in the raiding game competition. It is said that he has already won a lot of prestige and the momentum of heading up. The second son did not seem to have much interest in inheriting the family and fighting. He left the family when he was an adult. He heard that he joined Underworld's press department and became a journalist. As the third son, Riser also awakened the blood of the immortal bird early, and he was also very talented. In the future, he seems to be planning to follow his eldest brother to participate in the rating game competition. Without surprise, women such as Yubelina and Carloman will conclude a contract with him in his adulthood. His peerage and peace. Ching ching. In the main residence of the Phenex family, Tenrakus and Carloman of the Phenex family are fighting fiercely, while Ravel and Yubelina are watching. Carloman is good with a longsword, also known as a fighting madman among the girls. Basically every time after returning, Tenraku will fight a few times with her, and she is happy to accompany. The two of them have been fighting for dozens of rounds already. They are eager to fight. Ravel and others are nervous on one side, but when they hit the highlights, they can't help shouting for the two of them. HHH, not bad, Your Highness Tenraku. Undying holy bird, please give me the protection of the flame. Being pushed back by Tenraku's sword, Carloman laughs, eyes full of imposing and powerful fires of war, then longsword in her hand burns a circle of flame and slashes fiercely at Tenraku's. Stop, Carloman. Seeing that Carloman unexpectedly excitedly used her magic power, Yubelina and Ravel on one side were stunned, but it was too late to stop her. With a loud thunder, Tenraku was cut off like a kite falling off the line. Unii-chan, Unii-chan. His Highness Tenraku. Ravel ran to Tenraku's with a cry and Isabella and other girls followed in panic. Snapped. Yubelina, holding the magic staff, walked up to Carloman and slapped it directly on the girl's face. What the hell were you thinking? If something happens to His Highness Tenraku, your life would not even be enough for payment. Yubelina's face is looking scary, and her entire body is emitting a cold and scary feeling. Carloman also knew that she had brought a big disaster upon herself. Her face was white, and she squatted on the ground with one knee. I was wrong, I'm willing to receive any punishment. If something really happens to His Highness Tenraku, let alone her, I am afraid that everyone present today, except for Princess Ravel, will receive the anger of the family lord. With a snort, Yubelina was not moved and a magic spell was launched to punish the girl. Cough cough cough, stop it, Yubelina. When Yubelina was about to launch her magic attack, Tenraku, who was supported by Ravel, stopped her. Despite some minor injuries, Tenraku was alright and Yubelina sighed in relief. She stopped the magic attack in her hand, but she still coldly looked at Carloman. Unii-chan, Carloman dared to hurt you, I must punish her severely. Fiercely staring at Carloman, Ravel didn't want to let her go so easily. Little girl, your fierce persona won't be liked by boys. Carloman was just sparring with me, it is useless to blame her for my mistakes. Tenraku said while caressing the little girl's head. That's not it. Tenraku, Unii-chan is the most powerful. You are not useless. Isn't it? Ravel also panicked when she heard her Unii-chan speak. She clearly wanted to find some reason to comfort Tenraku, but she found himself speechless. He can neither awaken the bloodline of the undead bird, nor has the ability to practice magic, and even his most basic magic power is pitiful and almost absent. To some extent, Tenraku is indeed a complete waste. Tenraku did know this. In fact, his swordsmanship was comparable to Carloman, and even slightly better, but even so, Carloman easily crushed him after using magic power in her attacks. If someone else encounters such a situation, they would have already become desperate, but Tenraku has not given up, because he still has his ambitions and his hopes. Your Highness Tenraku, what do you want to do with Carloman? Looking at Carloman, who was still kneeling on the ground, Yubelina asked. As I said, this was just a spar, injuries occur in spar and no one is at fault. Get up, Carloman, you are not wrong. Shaking his head, Tenraku replied. Knowing that His Highness Tenraku didn't want to pursue the matter, Carloman bit her lips and didn't get up. Sighing slightly, Tenraku stroked the girl's forehead and said, Carloman, you are a real swordsman, and I have always liked you. I will leave for a few years and go out to practice. How about we make a deal? After hearing Tenraku's words, Carloman finally raised her head, and even Yubelina and Isabella on the side were puzzled. Deal? Ah, promise. If all goes well, you will contract with Riser as soon as he comes of age, to be his peerage member in peace, but I will also come of age and fight him, and if I win him, you will be in my peerage and become my knight. Tenraku's tone is not low and all the women thought that he is having an auditory hallucination. Riser awoke the bloodline of Phenex in an early age and he is getting vigorously nurtured by Phenex family. Although he is not comparable to those top-level geniuses in the new generation of devils, he is still among the best. Someone like Tenraku who couldn't even awaken his family's bloodline and is called a pitiful waste with no magic power, for him to say that he would defeat Riser. How can it be? Ravel looked at Tenraku with tears in her eyes, as if she is feeling sorry for her loser Unii-chan, and lamenting the injustice of his fate. Isabella also looked at Tenraku in a complicated way. In fact, they naturally prefer the amiable Tenraku to the proud Lord Riser. If Lord Tenraku can really win against Lord Riser, it would be quite good for them to be in his peerage. However, this is almost impossible. However, at this moment, Carlomene's voice sounded. If His Highness Tenraku can really win against Lord Riser, Carlomene vows to follow him. A strange light flashed in her eyes, but Carlomene still firmly said this. Looking at such a girl, Tenraku's face also showed a big smile. Ah, that's a deal. Little Tenraku, this is Phenex tears, and you must carry it well and don't show it off. A few days later, everyone was sending off Tenraku, and Ravel's mother handed a box to Tenraku, which contained 5 Phenex tears. Tears of Phenex are magical tears that only pure-blooded Phenex members can make. No matter how seriously they are injured, they can be restored quickly as long as they have not died. Not only in the Underworld, but these tears are also famous all over the world. Even giving a Phenex tear as a gift to Demon King is more than precious enough. Thank you, madam. Without pretending, Tenraku thanked her for the tears. You only have half of Devil's bloodline and it will make more people hate you. Angels, fallen angels, humans, don't expose your identity and come back alive. His father did not say much and he just reminded him. Tenraku also nodded, keeping these words in mind. Ravel hugged Tenraku with tears in her eyes and refused to let go. That pitiful look was so lovely that Tenraku couldn't help but sigh. By the time he returns, this little girl who is attaching herself to him and crying should grow into a slim beautiful girl. Hi, I heard that someone made a deal to beat me at my coming-of-age ceremony. It was a really big talk. Riser, who is holding his hands proudly in front of him and leaning against the stone pillars, sneered coldly. Obviously he had also heard about the agreement between Tenraku and Carlomene. Ah, that's what I said. Father, madam, do you have any opinion on it? No denying anything, Tenraku smiled instead. If you can then do it. Little Tenraku, then you have to live well and come back to beat Riser. As the father and the family lord, he just said something lightly, while madam had a smile on her lips and has a look of expectation on her face. Riser on one side was very angry, he didn't mind his father's words, but what is going on with his mother? She is treating this trash like he is her own son. Riser, you better work hard, or you'll lose badly. Father, madam, Ravel, and everyone, goodbye. Not intending to stay any more, Tenraku gestured to Yubelina next to him, and then a magic circle unfolded beneath his and Yubelina's feet, and under the eyes of everyone, they disappeared without a trace. Human World, Kamiya family's home. As a radiance flashed, Tenraku and Yubelina teleported from the magic square. Your Highness Tenraku has returned to Human World. If there is nothing else important, I will go back now. After delivering Tenraku, Yubelina started to send out her magic again and was ready to go back. Yubelina, if I really won against Riser, would you like to be in my peerage? And become my queen? Holding her head high, she smiled while looking at Tenraku. Yubelina took a deep breath and quickly looked back and said. Then wait till you do it, Your Highness Tenraku, but be aware that I will only follow the real strong. Looking forward to your return, see you soon. After leaving an ambiguous answer, Yubelina's figure disappeared with a flash of light. Do you only follow the real strong? Tenraku mumbled and the corner of his mouth raised slightly and his eyes narrowed. The real powerhouse, he will become one. In the jungle, a young girl was running desperately, turning her head from time to time to look behind her. It looked like she is escaping from someone. The girl looked only 10 years old, her delicate body was thin, her clothes were ragged, and her long black hair was randomly tied behind her. Sii. Suddenly a sharp sound of breaking the sky sounded, and a fireball shot out from a distance, and then fell beside the girl. With the roar, the fire bellowed and the young girl cried out in pain. You have no way to escape, just let us catch you. Several mages with thin sticks came out of the darkness and surrounded the girl. Why are you hurting me? I haven't done anything bad. The girl struggled to stand up, and despite her fear, there was stubbornness in her eyes. Maybe you are not at fault, but those dark wings behind you are your greatest sin. It's so sad that a young girl has the evil bloodline of a fallen angel, we must cleanse it. Forgive us, but you shouldn't exist in this world. The mages looked at the girl with sad and compassionate eyes, but they did not intend to let her go. Bloodline, bloodline, and that dirty bloodline again. The girl bit her lips tightly and a trace of blood oozed out. These people hated her dirty bloodline. If it were not for it, her mother would not. However, even if she hates this dirty bloodline, she still has to live, because as long as she is still alive, it would be the greatest proof of her mother's existence. Ghost. Raising his hand, a few ghosts flew out of the girl's cuffs. The ghosts spread out to protect the girl in the middle, and then propped up their stomachs and sprayed a circle of flames against the wizards. HNG. A burst of thunder sounded, and the girl did not remain ideal. She quickly seized the opportunities created by the little ghosts for herself, and a pair of black wings quickly appeared behind her, and then the girl was ready to escape from the mage's siege. But KCH. What? A flash of electricity struck the girl in the air and she was hit directly and fell to the ground with a cry. Not only the girl but the ghosts also quickly lost under the counter-attacks of the wizards and fell one by one. Drive the evil spirits, and the dirty bloodline, go to hell and confess, you evil girl! Their faces were expressionless and their eyes were cold, and thunder and lightning were wrapped around the staff in their hands and they were about to strike a final blow at the girl. Mother! The little girl closed her eyes gently, but there was a smile on the girl's face. Maybe this is not so bad, she would just die and be wiped out by these justice mages. As long as she dies, she can return to her mother's side. Just when the girl was ready to welcome her end, a change happened. Hiss! There was a sharp crack in the air, and then a flash of cold light shot through the air, forcing the mages, who were about to strike the final blow, to pause and retreat. The girl naturally heard the sound and could not help opening her eyes. She saw a sharp longsword being inserted in the tree next to her, trembling and buzzing. Who? Headed by a middle-aged mage, all the mage were staring at the direction where the longsword had come. With the sound of rustling, under the watch of the girl and all the wizards, the figure of a teenager came out of the darkness. It is Tenraku. Boy, who are you and why are you hindering us? Frowning, the middle-aged mage said. There are countless strange people in this world. For this young man to appear at such a time in such a place to prevent them from killing Angel's evil children. Naturally, they will not regard him as an ordinary teenager. It doesn't matter who I am, but can you let this girl go? Extracting his longsword from the tree, Tenraku appeared in front of the girl and spoke with a gentle tone. Boy, do you know who she is? She is a helpless person who needs help. That's just her hypocritical appearance, there is evil blood in her that came from a fallen angel. Well, even if she has the blood of a fallen angel in her, there is nothing wrong with it. The young girl stared at this young boy who suddenly appeared in front of her and argued with the mages. She couldn't understand why the other party will help someone unfamiliar to him, but the girl's heart that has become despondent and desperate to the world, a sudden warmth appeared in it. It turns out that there are still people who are willing to protect her and help her. It turns out that she has not been abandoned by this world. Endless bitterness and touch welled up in her heart, but the girl who had already learned to be strong did not let tears appear in her eyes, she just stared at the figure of the youth, to imprint him forever in her heart. Boy, get out of here, you are not our opponent, don't stop us from destroying this evil demon. Tenraku argued with the mages and eventually, the leading middle-aged mage spoke with an air of finality. I also know that I'm no match for the wizards, but I won't let you do anything. Placing the longsword in front of him, Tenraku replied firmly. Do you think you can stop us? Already getting displeased, the tone of the middle-aged mage became cold. With a sigh in his heart, Tenraku also knew he couldn't stop them all. Although he has been practicing outside for almost a year and his swordsmanship has also broken through the bottleneck and he had made a lot of progress, but he still has no chance of winning against these wizards who use spells and magic. However, he could not give in. Although I cannot stop you, I can threaten you. Speaking these strange words, Tenraku lifted his longsword towards his neck under the stunned expression of the girl and the mages. Without any pretentiousness, the sharp blade even scratched a shallow blood mark on his neck. This scene deeply shocked the mages and the girl. Boy, why are you doing this? The girl on the side was covering her lips with her hands and the middle-aged mage who had come back to his senses exhaled deeply and asked. Because I want to protect her. The blood mark on his neck deepened a bit and Tenraku replied calmly. In spite of his unyielding gaze, Tenraku smiled helplessly and wryly. If he had the strength to do so, he would have already dispatched the mages. Only, he did not have the strength, so he could only use this threatening hand and gamble with his own life. How mournful is the cry of the incompetent. The whole scene was dreadfully quiet, and despite the cold sweat that was breaking out on his forehead, Tenraku continued to stare at the middle-aged wizard for a long time. Let's go. A faint voice came from the middle-aged mage's mouth, and he turned away. Sir exalted. Although a group of mages was unwilling, they didn't dare to disobey the order of the middle-aged mage. They glared at Tenraku and the girl fiercely, and they all retreated after the middle-aged mage. Call. After a long exhaling breath, Tenraku's put down longsword and realized that his back had been soaked with cold sweat. It was a gamble that could have cost him his life, and it's not clear why the wizard finally gave up and walked away, but he won. My name is Tenraku, Kamiya Tenraku, how about you? After calming down for a while, Tenraku turned around and asked the girl. Although he has already guessed the girl's name. Staring blankly at Tenraku, the girl opened her mouth and at last made a sound. Aka Akeno, Himejima Akeno. Himejima Akeno is the girl's name. He inherited bloodline that came from a fallen angel and human, the future priestess of thunder and light, crimson-haired ruin princess, and Rias Grammaris queen. However, right now, she is just a wandering girl who has been taken away from her mother by people who hate fallen angels, thus resisting her father to run away from home and become a lonely and wandering girl. He did not expect that he would run into this situation on his way. Tenraku couldn't help but sigh, maybe this is not necessarily destiny. I am a martialist and I am traveling the world to hone my swordsmanship. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Although he had already guessed the girl's current situation, Tenraku still asked. I don't know. Picking up the injured ghost-like imps, Akeno kept shaking her head. The death of her mother caused a huge trauma to her young heart. She did not know what her purpose was or where she wanted to go. She just wandered around aimlessly and lived an empty life. If you don't know, then join me, we can travel the world together. After thinking a little, Tenraku said. Don't you hate me? Akeno raised her head in disbelief. Hate? Why would I hate you? Tenraku asked with a chuckle. Because I am a child of a fallen angel and human, I have a dirty bloodline. She lowered her head again, and there was a trace of inferiority and hatred in the girl's voice. She hated her wings and her bloodline because all her misfortunes were brought by them. You are a child of a fallen angel and human, and I am a child of a devil and human. Now, Akeno, don't you think this is destiny? After hearing Tenraku's words, Akeno's face again showed an incredible look. Because of the relationship between her mother and that man, she naturally knows what a devil is, and they are also called evil existence similar to fallen angels. Unexpectedly, this boy who saved her named Tenraku turned out to be a child of devil and human, he is just like her. Evil, devil, you are devil. I am a hybrid of devil and human. Gently tapping the girl's forehead, Tenraku continued, I am neither devil nor a human, even if they all hate my existence, but I never feel that I have a dirty bloodline on me because I am me. How is it, Akeno, do you want to go with me and become my companion? Looking at Tenraku's pure and sincere eyes, Akeno suddenly found that the cold darkness didn't seem so desperate, because it shone with a radiance. Sir Exalted, why did you let go of that fallen angel's spawn? Yeah, Master Exalted, the young man wanted to protect that evil child. He must have been infected by darkness and he is also evil. Sir Exalted, we can't just let them go. In the jungle, the mages chased the pace of the middle-aged mage leader, but all of them were filled with indignation. They didn't understand why their Exalted, who had always hated evil, would let the child of a fallen angel and the teenager infected by darkness go. Shut up, hurry up and leave. With a cold voice, the middle-aged mage looked at the mages following him and hurried away, but he only got a few steps away and suddenly stopped. The mages following him were dazed as the situation was completely unclear to them, and they can only stop as the middle-aged mage did, but soon, they also found an anomaly. Feathers, dark feathers, fell down from the sky. A fallen angel fell. Let me tell you the reason why your exalted lord let go of that boy and girl. Because he found the aura I released. Good evening, my lords. A voice came from above them and all the mages looked up and saw a man with 12 black wings floating in the air, smiling and waving a greeting to them. Fallen angel. 12 wings. The middle-aged mage's eyes began to sink like water, while the other mages' face changes wildly. They have seen a lot of fallen angels, and they have even wiped out a lot, but this is the first time that they have seen a fallen angel with 12 wings. That is already the top-level fighting power in fallen angels, and they are absolutely unmatchable. Hi, I am a fallen angel, moreover, I am the fallen angels Governor-General Azazel. Don't you know me? I was the one in the Holy Bible who fell from the sky because I grabbed a woman's breasts. It was obviously a frivolous sound, but it was as loud as a blast in the ear of the mages. Governor-General of the Fallen Angels, the legendary angel, Azazel. The young mages' faces were filled with fear and only the middle-aged mage could barely keep himself calm and said. Azazel, why is the Governor-General of Fallen Angels is here, do you want to start another war? Faced with the question of the middle-aged mage, Azazel did not care much and replied. Don't say such scary things, Master Mage, even I actually hate war. The reason why I appear here is. It's because you guys bullied my friend's daughter, so I can't help but come out and plan to bully you. Speaking of which, Azazel, who originally had a frivolous appearance also became sharper, and the corner of his mouth raised in a cold arc. Is that so? Laughing helplessly, the heart of the middle-aged mage was relieved, as long as it did not cause war. But the mage couldn't help but regret it. If he knew that the girl had something to do with the legendary fallen angel Azazel, he would have eliminated her as soon as possible without hesitation. The opportunity has been missed, and the middle-aged mage no longer thinks too much. Looking at Azazel above the sky, his eyes grew sharper. Although they have no chance of winning, they will never succumb to evil. Thunder and lightning. His spirit power surged and the tin rod in his hand was held high. The middle-aged mage instantly cast a huge thunder and lightning ball to attack Azazel. Facing this attack, Azazel in the sky also condensed a long sphere of light and then threw it towards the thunder and lightning ball. Lili HNGLNG. The thunder was splattering and the loud noise soared. What happened, Tenraku? Akeno, who wore a flushed face on Tenraku's back, saw Tenraku stop suddenly and could not help asking. Frowning slightly, he looked back into the distance, and Tenraku finally shook his head. Nothing, let's go quickly. Looking at the human mages lying in the ruins of his own making, Azazel smiled mischievously and then flew into the air with his wings. The girl born of a fallen angel and human being, the boy born of a devil combined with a human being, fate is really interesting. 9997 9998 9999. In an abandoned temple, Tenraku is sweating in the yard while practicing his swordsmanship. Not far away, Himejima Akeno was preparing food for the two of them, while a few ghost imps flew in the air around Akeno. High School DD is a magical world of higher plane, with a variety of legendary races and various magical powers. Devil uses magic power to gather wind and rain, thunder and lightning. Angel uses power of light to purify all evils, and there are even divine powers that only the original protagonist Hyudo can use. As a hybrid of devil and human, Tenraku is able to practice both magic power and spirit chi. Magic power comes from spirit and imagination. The stronger the spirit is, the easier devil gets magic power, and the spirit is the expression of the soul. Perhaps because his soul does not belong to this world, Tenraku did not have the ability to practice magic, and the magic power that he can gather is also pitiful, so he gave up on the practice of magic power a long time ago and chose spirit chi. Spirit chi, also known as spirit power, internal chi, chakra, is an ancient fundamental force that flows between heaven and earth. If magic power comes from the spirit, spirit chi comes from the whole body. It is a mysterious and unknown power hidden in all animals, plants, and human bodies. Since the death of his mother, Tenraku has been practicing for almost 5 years now, but the amount of spirit chi he had gathered in his body is unsatisfactory. This is not to say that Tenraku has no ability to practice spirit chi. On the contrary, his ability in this area is quite good. However, spirit chi is different from magic power. Magic power can quickly accumulate as long as one has a strong spirit, but spirit chi can only be dug up from the body step by step and drawn from the world. At first, it may be a bit slow, and it is not as good as magic power users. However, this speed will gradually increase with the increase of spirit chi and the strength of the users. When it really grows, he will not be worse than any magic power users. And he would even have some special abilities. Tenraku, dinner is ready. Akeno came to Tenraku's side at some point and looked at Tenraku's with a smile on her face. It has been nearly half a year since the two met. Compared with the original girl, her body has developed a lot, and her face is not as empty as it was before, and there is also a smile on her face. Okay, wait for me, Tenraku replied after stopping his practice. Putting his longsword away, Tenraku wiped his forehead and mobilized a trace of spirit chi to evaporate the sweat from his body, and saved the trouble of washing himself. Itadakimasu. Looking at a table full of dishes, Tenraku and Akeno clapped their palms, and a few ghost imps cheered and enjoyed it. Akeno, your cooking skills have improved again. Tenraku couldn't help but praise after tasting the girl's cooking. That is, of course, and this is also because of my mother, and as a girl, I don't want to lose to Tenraku's in these respects. With a little pride, the girl faintly looked at Tenraku's eyes. Although Tenraku is also very good at cooking, since the two have been together, these things have been done by Akeno. Watching Tenraku eating the food made by her and showing a happy expression, the girl's heart was also happy. Once she was wandering alone, hungry because she had no food, and hunted because she has the bloodline of a fallen angel in her. Although they were all very painful moments, she could bear them all. The only thing that made her afraid was the loneliness of being alone, as if she had been abandoned by the whole world, and she woke up alone in the middle of the night many times because of that. But since Tenraku appeared, a radiance finally lit up in her dark and desperate world. The two wandered together, explored together, and fought against their enemies together. It was obviously not different from their previous lives, but they were full, warm, and at ease. It was as if the whole world had become different. Looking at the involuntary smile on the girl's face, Tenraku said. Akeno, you have changed. After recovering, Akeno's face became red, but the smile on her face became more radiant and she spoke from the heart. It's because I met Tenraku. At night, Tenraku and Akeno lie tightly together in a temporary small nest. After traveling together, the two initially went to sleep separately, but one day, Akeno got into Tenraku's arms with a blushing face, and the two kept on tacit understanding. The scars have long disappeared, don't worry about it. Tenraku spoke helplessly as the girl leaning in his arms habitually caressed his neck. In my heart, it will always exist. It is the proof that Tenraku saved me, and the proof that I met Tenraku. With gentle movements, Akeno spoke with an innocent voice. Although the girl's eyes were gentle and sincere, Tenraku smiled bitterly. He saved her, but he didn't fall from the sky like Prince Charming in the legend, and then he wielded holy sword in his hand to kill everywhere, protecting the beautiful princess from the enemy. Instead, he put the sword on his neck and used that stupid and extreme way to stop the enemy's pace. Well, Tenraku's, why don't we stay here afterward? Aunt Harino in the town said she could take us in, and if we didn't want to live in her house, she could ask the villagers to build a house for us. As if she had thought of something, Akeno suddenly suggested, and her already somewhat charming face turned a shade of red. Slightly stunned, Tenraku shook his head and said, "Sorry, Akeno, I'm too weak now, I can't stop my pace." Why is Tenraku so obsessed with power? I already think that Tenraku is very powerful. Rejected by Tenraku, the girl's face instantly turned white, but she was still puzzled. She didn't understand why Tenraku is so persistent. Even if he has strong power, that kind of thing would not only hurt others but it would also hurt himself. She doesn't understand it at all. Looking at Akeno's excited and puzzled look, Tenraku gently stroked the girl's forehead, and then said, "Because without power, there is nothing to gain, nothing to protect. I want to protect the people I cherish, and I want to protect Akeno, so I need great strength." Upon hearing Tenraku's answer, Akeno remained in a daze for some time, and then she covered her lips with her hand, and tears rolled down her face. "Sorry, Tenraku-s, I. Feeling self-reproach and guilt, the young girl was choking with sobs. There are many similarities between the two of them. They are both half humans and half devil and angel, and their respective mothers died early in their lives. But there is one thing that is different. Tenraku did not inherit his father's ability, nor can he awaken the power of a devil, but she has inherited the abilities of her father and mother perfectly. As long as she wants, she will soon be able to master this ability and become strong. However, because she hated this power, she was unable to accept it for a long time. Akeno, I want to pursue great power, it's my choice, but you are different. Don't feel guilty and there is no need to blame yourself. You just have to live your life the way you want to live it." Tenraku-s comforted while gently rubbing the girl's forehead. As the silence subsided, the girl wiped the tears from her face and looked up. Tenraku is too cunning to say such things to others. Looking at the smile on the girl's face again, Tenraku could not help but scratch his head. At this time, when he said this kind of words, maybe he was really cunning. "We've been here for a long time. Let's continue our journey tomorrow." "Well, no matter where you go, I will follow Tenraku. However, before leaving, we have to thank Aunt Harino for taking care of us a lot these days." "We will." Aunt Harino is a warm-hearted middle-aged woman, probably in her 30s. When she first came to the town, she took care of Tenraku and Akeno and gave them a lot of cooking ingredients on weekdays. Tenraku and Akeno usually don't stay in one place for too long. Since they have decided to set off again, they arrived at Harino's house after packing their clothes in the morning. They said goodbye to Aunt Harino and thanked her for taking care of them. Not expecting the two of them to leave so soon, Aunt Harino was also quite sorry. In her opinion, Tenraku and Akeno were both poor homeless children. Although she once again proposed that they could stay with her, the two children still declined politely. They had originally planned to leave, but they suddenly found something. Tenraku and Akeno glanced at each other, and there was a trace of suspicion in their eyes. "Aunt Harino, is there anyone else in your family beside you?" Akeno asked seriously. "Besides me, Ichiro is at home, what's wrong?" Not knowing why Akeno suddenly asked about this, but the simple Aunt Harino answered truthfully. "There is an ominous aura coming from Aunt's house, and if we read it correctly, it seems that someone in Aunt's family had been possessed by evil spirits or something." After thinking about it, Akeno finally surmised what she and Tenraku are thinking. After hearing Akeno's words, Aunt Harino couldn't help but panic. There are countless ikai and evil spirits in this world, and they often attached themselves to some ordinary people to absorb their essence, so even ordinary people believe in their existence. Aunt Harino didn't doubt Akeno's words, because she also found that Ichiro was acting unusual for the past few days. He is always in a state of lack of energy, and he slept all day yesterday, and didn't wake up this morning. "What can I do, what can I do? In this remote town, there is no master who can exorcism evil spirits." Aunt Harino turned pale and was sweating anxiously. "Aunt Harino, Akeno and I have some spells to get rid of evil spirits. If you believe us, let us try." After all, she has taken care of both of them, and Tenraku thought it was time to repay them, so he said this. "Can you really do it?" Although Tenraku's words made her feel a little emotional, Aunt Harino still hesitated. After all, Tenraku and Akeno are not much bigger than Ichiro. It is really hard to believe that they can destroy evil spirits like the powerful master. Looking at Aunt Harino's indecisive look, Tenraku and Akeno smiled at each other without explaining anything. Although they are still not masters at present, they are still able to deal with a few evil spirits, and they have done many similar things in the past 6 months of traveling together. In the end, Aunt Harino, who had no other choice, still chose to believe the two. After instructing them to be careful, she invited them into the house and took them to Ichiro's room upstairs. Ichiro is the only son of Aunt Harino. He is an ordinary teenager of 8 or 9 years old. He was sleeping peacefully when the three entered his room. Of course, this is just the scene in the eyes of Aunt Harino, and in the eyes of Tenraku and Akeno, the teenager named Ichiro is lying on the bed screaming for help as his life force is getting sucked by an evil spirit. Aunt Harino, you should go outside and wait for a while, don't come in no matter what you hear. The young man named Ichiro could not hold on for long, and Tenraku's face became solemn. Although the evil spirits could not be seen, Aunt Harino could only trust the two at the moment, ensuring that she would not come in and then exited the room and closed the door. Akeno, be careful. Yes, you too. After reminding each other to be careful, Tenraku pulled out the longsword from behind him and Akeno also released some of her own imps. These little imps are a group of little guys that Akeno once met while drifting alone. For some reason, Akeno became friends with them and she has been taking care of them. Although they are not very strong, they can also help her as an enabler. At Akeno's command, the few imps screamed and rushed towards the evil spirit. The evil spirit, who was already consuming the boy's life force, was disturbed by the imps and looked irritable. It opened its big mouth and was about to kill these annoying little people, but the imps were very clever and they flew away at the sight of the situation, and then returned to Akeno. The enraged evil spirit stopped there, it let go of Ichiro's soul and roared towards Tenraku and Akeno. Come here. With a sharp flash in his eyes, Tenraku rushed against the evil spirit while mobilizing spirit chi in his body to cover the sword body. Ordinary swords cannot harm evil spirits, but swords covered with spirit chi can do it. The sword in Tenraku's hand falls and with the cold light flashing, the evil spirit in the air was directly cut off by Tenraku's sword. Ah! The evil spirit, who had been cut to pieces, let out a shriek of pain, and the fierceness light grew in it, it was ready to bite Tenraku's in spite of everything. Thunder and lightning. At just the right moment, Akeno's voice rang from the side, and the girl's jade-like finger pointed towards the evil spirit and then a beam of electric light emitted from it, directly exploding the evil spirits in the air into flying ash. Wow mom, I'm so scared, so scared. Oh my Ichiro, you scared your mother to death. In the living room of Harino's house, Tenraku and Akeno stood side by side while watching mother and son crying together. Although the two of them are just doing this to repay the favor, it feels good to help others occasionally like this. Ichiro, can you tell us what is going on, why were you possessed by an evil spirit? Yeah, Ichiro, you tell your mother what happened. Tenraku asked when the mother and the child were crying, and Aunt Harino also eagerly asked. At first, Ichiro dodged their eyes, but he finally told the truth under the pressure from his mother. It turned out that he received a leaflet while playing outside a few days ago. The leaflet was painted with a peculiar magic square, and the person who gave him the leaflet also told him that he could summon the Devil Lord as long as he called to the magic formation in good faith. Devils can do anything he wants, so long as he pays the price. The little guy took the leaflet back to his house with a little doubt. Finally, he couldn't resist his curiosity and tried to summon the devil from this magic circle with a sincere heart. To his surprise, he actually summoned a devil. The devil was not as terrible as he heard in the legend, but it was rather kind, which relaxed the young Ichiro who was nervous and frightened at first. After asking the devil a lot of questions, Ichiro finally exchanged his most beloved toy with the devil for the ability to temporarily talk to ghosts. After gaining the ability, Ichiro found that he could see a lot of ghosts floating in the air. Not only could he talk to them, but he could also find them to play with. At first, everything was fine, but then he saw a black-spirited ghost. He did not agree to speak to him, but when he invited him to play with everyone, he threw himself over and grabbed his neck, and also sucked his own energy, and then what everyone knew later happened. After hearing Ichiro's statement, Aunt Harino was stunned, but Tenraku and Akeno were not surprised. Devils in this world would enter into contracts and trade with humans for various reasons. Tenraku also specifically asked the younger Ichiro if he knew the name of the devil who traded with him, but the little guy shook his head, and the other party only told him that he was a peerage member of some big devil in the underworld. But when the little guy said the name of the big devil, it made Tenraku look surprised, because that devil belonged to one of the legendary 72 pillars of the underworld, whose name was Gramarye. With the Harino family's repeated gratitude, Tenraku and Akeno set off on their journey again. Tenraku, let's get out of here. Just out of Harino's house, Akeno looks anxious. Due to their identities, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, they usually avoid the territories of devil and church during their travels. However, they did not expect that this time, they not only broke into the territory of a devil family, but they also saved someone in their territory from an evil spirit. Although Akeno didn't regret that they had saved Aunt Harino's child, there are also a few arrogant people in the devil families. If the other party knows that his contractor was rescued by the two of them, he will definitely not tolerate it. In order to scrub the stain, he might catch up with the two of them and finish them off. Looking at the girl's worried eagerness, Tenraku nodded his head in agreement, but he was also a little concerned. Gramarye, this isn't just a coincidence. Tenraku, let's live here tonight. A few days later, the two stood in front of an abandoned temple and Akeno said with a happy face. Having been on the road, the two have become so good at finding abandoned temples and shrines that it has become a special skill. Akeno, you are responsible for cooking, and I'll be responsible for cleaning the temple. Well, let's see who can finish first. I think it would be me. No, it's definitely going to be me this time. Division of labor and collaboration, and companionship from time to time, even if their journey is hard, the two of them do not feel lonely at all. After a short time, Akeno prepared the delicious dishes, and Tenraku also cleaned the temple and built a temporary small nest for two. Eating the hot dishes, unparalleled happiness flooded the hearts of the two of them and it felt as if they had gotten what many people have been pursuing in their life. Well, Tenraku, it would be nice if we just kept on traveling like this. Unexpectedly, Akeno suddenly said this with genuine feelings. The two of them could just keep traveling all the time. They can walk around the corners of the world, see the scenery of the world, and occasionally help those who need help on the journey, until the end of the sky, the cape of the sea. There must be a very romantic and beautiful picture in the heart of the girl at this time. Tenraku smiled and did not speak, but it was clear in his heart. This is impossible. At night, the two were embracing each other as usual, lying in their temporary small nest. Although there were a few lonely crows outside, they did not feel the slightest chill as they warmed each other. However, at a certain moment, the eyes of the two people moved in their sleep and they both opened their eyes at the same time. Someone touched the trap. Yes, someone came in. Tenraku frowned, while Akeno seemed a little nervous. They don't know who touched the trap, maybe it was an ordinary beast or a passerby who happened to pass by, but it might be someone who is hunting them down. Glancing at each other, the two climbed up gently and took up their weapons and hid behind the pillars in the temple. No matter who comes in, they will wait and see for a while. After a while, under the gaze of the two figures walked in from outside the broken temple door. Despite the darkness in the temple, the two people with half-devil and fallen angel bloodline could see clearly everything. Entering the temple was a middle-aged man dressed as an elegant deacon, and a young girl walking in front of him. The girl was almost as old as the two, with a beautiful face and a nobility feeling. The bright red long hair is exceptionally conspicuous even in the dark night. This noble beautiful girl's presence demand to be admired. The two who entered the temple stopped in the middle of the courtyard. The girl's big shining eyes looked around and she said, "You guys come out, I know you are here, I want to talk to you about entering our territory, but don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you." Although the girl tried hard to make her voice express sincerity, the whole temple was quiet and no one answered. The deacon-looking middle-aged man looked at the direction of Tenraku and Akeno. He pushed his glasses but he just smiled without saying a word. It looked like he did not intend to interfere. After a long wait, seeing that the two did not respond to her in the dark, the girl sighed and could only speak out again. "In fact, there is a group who are looking for you, and they talked to us and asked, can you give us the little girl who has the fallen angel blood in her body? You have eliminated the evil spirit and saved the child and they have also heard about this matter, I think they will find you soon. Be assured, however, that we have no malice against you and will not pursue your efforts to destroy the evil spirit. If you will only come out and speak clearly, we will do our best to protect you." The girl's voice was very gentle, but after hearing the girl's words, Akeno's whole body trembled and her nervous face became pale. With a slight sigh, Tenraku soothingly stroked Akeno's forehead, and it was clear to both of them that the group of practitioners who were looking for them were probably those people. Knowing that there was no point in hiding any longer, Tenraku pulled Akeno out and they stood in front of the girl and the middle-aged man and said, "Hello, Princess of the Gramarye House, Miss Rias." It is true that this was only the first time that they have met, but Tenraku was convinced of the identity of the girl because she was Rias Gramarye. "You know me?" Rias seemed surprised as she looked at Tenraku who said her name, and even Akeno next to him looked at Tenraku with a puzzled expression on her face. "The young genius princess of the Gramarye family, it would be quite an embarrassment for me to not know you. My name is Tenraku, Kamiya Tenraku." Tenraku said while touching his nose with a wry smile. Kamiya Tenraku frowning, Rias muttered his name. Since the other party knows her and knows her name then he must be from Underworld or he must be related to some devil, but despite her memory, she could not remember any devil with this surname. "Cough, maybe Miss Rias doesn't know my name, but you must be very familiar with my nickname. Underworld's useless trash, the waste child of House of the Phenex, that is me." Seeing the thoughtful looks of the girl, Tenraku coughed, and then reminded a little embarrassedly. "Woo, you are the useless of the Phenex family." With her eyes wide open, Rias immediately thought of it and pointed to Tenraku, and she almost said useless trash. However, after reacting, Rias quickly covered her lips with a reddish face. "You don't need to worry, Miss Rias. I'm a hybrid of human and devil, and I can't awaken the Phenex bloodline. I am indeed a useless waste. Sorry." Shrugging his shoulders, Tenraku looks relaxed. He's used to being called trash or something, but Rias still sincerely apologized. Looking back, she glanced at the middle-aged man behind her. After seeing the other person nodding insignificantly, Rias was also completely convinced of Tenraku's identity. Looking at Tenraku, who was calm while confessing his name as Waste without showing any inferiority, Rias became curious for the first time. This boy, who is only as old as her, what has he experienced for him to have such a strong mindset? Miss Rias, to make a long story short, you must have known the situation on our side. Her name is Akeno, and she is the one with the bloodline of a fallen angel and humans, which is exactly what the group of practitioners are looking for. Tenraku said while pulling Akeno in front of him. With a nod, Rias did not deny that, although Tenraku's identity surprised her a little, she had already investigated Akeno's case. Miss Rias, I have a request, and I hope you can agree to it. Suddenly bending over, Tenraku surprised everyone. Your Highness Tenraku, please speak. Rias spoke after she came back to her senses. No one knew what Tenraku is about to do. Under Rias, Akeno, and the middle-aged men's watch, Tenraku finally expressed his request. Miss Rias, I want you to take Akeno with you. I don't want it. As soon as Tenraku had finished speaking, Akeno shouted, and then, ignoring Tenraku and Rias, she ran deeper into the temple. My apologies, Miss Rias, I also know that such a sudden request is difficult, but I really hope that you can take Akeno with you. Let her be your peerage or your servant, and Akeno will never let you down. There was a flicker in his eyes, but Tenraku soon recovered and pleaded earnestly. Why are you doing this? Is she not your valued and important companion? Rias asked sharply while sighing slightly. Although she is still young, she is already an upper-class devil, and according to Tenraku's next answer, she will also make her choices and judgments. If the other party's reasons are okay, then there would be no problem, but if the other party just wants to throw away the girl simply because he hates her. It is because she's an important companion of mine, so. Please. Agrippa, what do you think of the fourth child of the Phenex family? Walking out of the temple, Rias asks the male deacon behind her. Don't you already have your own judgment, Miss Rias? Pushing his glasses, the man smiled slightly, but continued. That kind of firm and pure look is not something that a coward and liar can have. Nodding resignedly, Rias agreed. Although she did not refuse Tenraku's request in the end, she did not agree easily. Actually, it is your benefit that you have agreed to that young master's request. The little girl has very good qualifications and she has fully inherited the ability of a fallen angel. Isn't young Miss looking for her peerage member? If you take her back to Grandma's home and train her, she will definitely become an excellent peerage member in the future. No, she may even become a good queen for your peerage. Thinking of something, the deacon man named Agrippa said again. Rias couldn't help but gave him a surprised look. She didn't expect Agrippa to rate the girl named Akeno so high. As her father's peerage bishop, Rias will naturally not have any doubts about Agrippa's words. Although she is also a bit eager, she finally shook her head. We have agreed to come back here again in 3 days. As for the final result, it is up to her own choice. Akeno, are you still angry? Looking at the girl who was still crying in the corner, Tenraku couldn't help but feel hurt. Not long ago, she was still fantasizing about the two of them roaming the world together forever and always remain together forever. But now that Tenraku wanted to throw her away so quickly, she would be very angry. As expected, the girl's voice came from the corner. WWW Tenraku, are you going to abandon me too? Do you hate me? Do you hate my dirty bloodline? The girl's sad voice made Tenraku's eyes glow with pain, but it was soon replaced by a touch of determination. I started to hate Akeno too. I'm tired of you being stuck to me all day and all night. You can't even move every time and you still like to be brave. Finally, I still have to carry you on my back. I have to drag my legs every time. Your cooking is not good at all. I just took care of you and pretended to like it, but now I can't stand it anymore. And there was a sentence in his mouth that was too excessive and he felt like shit. When he saw the girl running out from behind the corner of the wall and rushing to himself, he closed his eyes without any resistance. That's right, like this, hit him, scold him, hate him, and then leave him. However, the violent slap or punch he had imagined did not come. When he opened his eyes, Tenraku found that the girl was watching him with tears in her eyes and she spoke. Cheater, swindler, Tenraku is a big swindler, don't think you can lie to me like this. WWW woo. Embracing Tenraku violently, the girl shouted hysterically and then burst into tears. With both hands involuntarily holding the girl's shoulder, he could not keep the camouflage on his face and Tenraku gently stroked the girl's back. Sorry, Akeno. Tenraku also wanted to say more apology words, but in the next moment, his lips were blocked by the girl who suddenly tipped on her toes. In their small nest, Tenraku and Akeno snuggled tightly together. Although their clothes were somewhat scattered, the two did not do anything. They are still small. However, the young girl and the boy did do their first with each other. The first kiss. I'm sorry, Akeno, I'm too weak, and now I can't protect you. I know. But I will become stronger, stronger than anyone. I know. Akeno, will you wait for me? Looking at the girl, Tenraku looked solemn as he asked this. Ah, I will. The girl's face was covered with tears again, but this time, it was tears of happiness. In the following days, Tenraku and Akeno lived in the small temple. The practitioners who have been looking for Akeno have found their whereabouts. It is only a matter of time before they catch up with them. Rather than fleeing indiscriminately, it is better to stay in Gremorous territory as that was the smartest and safest way. Both Tenraku and Akeno tacitly did not summarize their situation, as if everything were the same as before, and nothing had happened. But on a daily basis, the two become increasingly close, eating together, training together, and sleeping together. They were stuck to each other for every second. Moreover, every night, the two will tear and roll in their small nest frantically, plundering each other's sweetness. It can be said that except for the last step, the two are already familiar with each other's skin, and have done all the things that should not be done. All the women who are fallen angel are enchanting demoness. They seem to be born with the ability to seduce and conquer men. Although Akeno only has half of fallen angel bloodline, she has also inherited this ability very well. Many times, she let Tenraku wander between heaven and hell, and whenever she saw Tenraku's expression of grief and resignation, Akeno would laugh with delight. The happy days are always so short and the 3 days passed, and finally, the day when Rias agreed to meet them again arrived. However, what surprised Tenraku and Akeno was that Rias did not arrive, but some other people did found them first. Several practitioners wearing bamboo hats and holding swords in their hands were blocked in the temple courtyard. Under the vigilant watch of Tenraku and Akeno, the practitioners spread out on both sides, and then a male who had just entered the old age took off his bamboo hat and said, "Long time no see, Akeno." The man's voice was very majestic, but his eyes were sad when he looked at Akeno. "Uncle." With trembling voice, Akeno covered her lips as she looked at the appearing man in disbelief. Although she has long known that the Himejima family has been pursuing her, what she did not expect was that it would be this person. The Himejima family is a long-established Shinto family. Akeno's mother is also from the main family and she is a priestess of the shrine. The old man in front of them is the elder of Akeno's mother, her uncle, and he is also the contemporary family lord of Himejima family. Of course, the other practitioners in the yard are also members of the Himejima family. Walking towards Akeno, her uncle suddenly bent down. "Sorry, my girl, I will not let you escape again. You are the stain that the Himejima family, we must wash away this stain, do you understand?" Her uncle's voice was painful and sad, and Akeno, who heard the sound, became even paler and her figure was crumbling. She is just regarded as the stain of the Himejima family. "Akeno, you are not a stain." Holding up Akeno, Tenraku looked at the girl's eyes and spoke softly. Despite the simple movements and simple words, the originally confused and painful girl gradually calmed down, and the sadness on her face was replaced by a touch of firmness. "Yeah, she is her, not anyone's stain." As if growing up a lot in a flash, the girl directly faced the man who was looking toward her, the family lord of Himejima family, the so-called uncle, and then she shouted, "I want to live. Don't you understand, even if you can live, your life will only be filled with misfortune and pain." Shaking his head, her uncle seemed very disappointed with Akeno's answer, but Akeno sneered and the last trace of blankness in her eyes disappeared, leaving only the complete coldness. For the sake of this family reputation, they not only killed her mother but they also wanted to wipe her out completely. This is her so-called clansman. However, the more they are like this, the more she wants to live just so that she could spite them. "You have become stubborn." Seeing Akeno's reaction, her uncle sighed, and his eyes became fierce and cold. With a wave of his hand, the practitioners behind her uncle all pushed forward to surround Tenraku and Akeno. "Young man, this is a matter for our clan, it has nothing to do with you. Leave if you want to remain alive." Looking at Tenraku holding his sword and standing in front of Akeno, her uncle said coldly. "If you want to hurt Akeno, you have to go through me." With a cold smile, Tenraku did not give in and stood in front of him. "Tenraku." Akeno looked at Tenraku's eyes with endless tenderness, but when he turned to her uncle, her face became cold and ironic again. "Humph, let's get started." It seemed that Akeno's uncle has lost his patience. He no longer hesitated, he gave a command of attack to his subordinates with a snort. His spirit chi surged, and a group of practitioners immediately rushed towards the two. The little imps rushed out of Akeno's cuffs while spitting wind and fire and attacked the group of practitioners. The fight has become a mess right from the start. Looking at each other, Tenraku and Akeno also acted. Crack! Akeno condensed 2 beams of light in her hands, and then she threw them at the group of practitioners. With a dazzling light, the electric light rapidly expanded and continued to flow around, and suddenly the sound of screams rang out throughout the temple. Tenraku's eyes were as bright as electricity and determination filled his eyes. He seized the opportunity to rush forward and quickly knocked down a group of practitioners paralyzed by electricity and light. Your thunderlight is already so powerful? If I let you grow, I'm afraid you will surpass me one day sooner or later. Looking at the electric light in Akino's hands, her uncle sighed, but in the next moment. However, you won't have the chance to grow. The sword in his hand slammed on the ground and a powerful spirit power was released from her uncle's body. Not only did the electric light become scattered, but Akino and her few imps also flew out. Akino. With a flash of red in his eyes, Tenraku rushed towards Akino's uncle, desperately stirring up the little spirit chi inside him. Ching 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 chiang. In a few moments, the long sword in Tenraku's hand had collided with the sword in Akino's uncle's hand for more than 100 times. Even Tenraku, with his final effort, could only push the other man back by several steps. HH. Tenraku's hands were shaking as he gasped for air and Akino's uncle looked at Tenraku with a little appreciation. You have amazing swordsmanship abilities. He is such a great swordsman even at this age. This is by no means a talent. It requires a tough will and unimaginable effort. Although he greatly appreciates Tenraku, the uncle will not let Tenraku go. The stains of Himejima family must be wiped out, no one can stop it. Young man, take my one move. With a loud roar, the thin sword in Akino's uncle's hand flashed and then pierced in Tenraku's direction. As the attack came, Tenraku could only resist this attack by his sword, but the next moment, Tenraku felt a great force pushing him and the longsword in his hand broke off, and the whole person flew out towards the rear. Tenraku. After just easing up and crawling off the ground, Akino saw Tenraku's scene of being shot and flew out of the air. He suddenly lost his face and ran towards Tenraku desperately. Tenraku, sorry. Tenraku, who was smashed to the ground, lifted himself up. The girl had burst into tears, and her expression was full of endless guilt and distress. Akino, don't cry, I'm fine. Stroking the girl's forehead, Tenraku wanted to smile to comfort the girl, but bright red blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. Akino, give up on struggling, everything is over. Looking at Tenraku and Akino, her uncle's face was filled with complex expressions. The other practitioners also restored their ability to move one after another and stood behind Akino's uncle and stared at them indifferently. Kill me if you want to kill, don't hurt Tenraku anymore. Looking at Tenraku struggling behind him, the girl shouted pitifully. I can promise you this request. So. Farewell, girl. He lifted the sword in his hand and a trace of pity flashed in his eyes but it was eventually replaced with a touch of firmness. The stains of the Himejima family must be removed. The sword fell with a roaring wind, and when Tenraku was about to push Akino out of the way, a voice filled with magic power sounded out in the area. Stop. The sword stopped in midair and a bright red figure of the girl walked in from outside. Tenraku finally breathed a sigh of relief when he looked at the girl who came in. You finally come. Rias Gremory, the girl who walked in was Rias Gremory, and behind Rias was the male devil named Agrippa, dressed as an elegant deacon. You are the little miss of Gremory House. It seems that I have already explained this matter to you before. Are you trying to intervene in our family's matter? Looking at Rias who appeared and interrupted him at the last minute, Akino's uncle's face also didn't look good. Although the Gremory House is famous in the underworld but the Himejima clan has also been one of the famous gatekeepers who have protected this country since ancient times. No, although I am quite talented, I am not so arrogant as to intervene casually with the Himejima family matter. Rias replied with a slight smile on her face. She is obviously young, but Rias already possessed the temperament of a noble devil. But if it's not just a matter of Himejima people, then it's a different story. As soon as these words were spoken, Rias' words made the uncle frown and he said, what does this mean? They have done detailed investigations for a long time but they have not heard anything that would link Akino with the Gremoris family. Instead of answering, Rias looked in Akino's direction with a serious look on her face. Akino, would you like to join my peerage and be part of our Gremory family? I will. The smart Akino immediately understood and replied without hesitation. Himejima family's lord, you also heard that, Akino is now my peerage and a member of our Gremory family. Finally having her first peerage member, Rias was very happy in her heart and she spoke while smiling at Akino's uncle. Is the Gremory family really going against our Himejima family? Feeling unbearably angry, Akino's uncle became extremely angry and the Himejima people behind him were filled with indignation. Damn you devil, this is the business of our people. Even if you are a Gremory, don't think we are afraid of you. Master family lord, just order, we fight with them. The Himejima people began to glare at Rias' side. Rias, who had been smiling, narrowed her eyes and the expression on her face turned cold. However, at this time, you dare to disrespect the Gremoris name, I can no longer treat it as if I have not heard it. The deacon's voice still came forward from behind Rias with a smile, but his eyes were cold. He glanced at random, but the Heimjima people who insulted Gremory all became pale and retreated one by one. We were in the wrong just now, I wonder who you are? Akino's uncle's expression changed and he stepped forward to protect his clansmen behind him and then asked in a deep voice. I am the peerage bishop of the current family lord of Gremory, and the one in charge of this area. My name is Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. Seeing that they are just the first offenders, I will not pursue them this time. About the fallen angel girl, since it has become a state of affairs for the Heimjima family and the Gremory family, then you can't just kill her now. How about the Heimjima family's lord and I go and have a chat? He pointed to the small forest outside the temple and spoke. Although the gentle deacon devil looks harmless to humans and animals, Akino's uncle's expression became extremely fearful. And to be able to say such a thing in front of his lord's daughter also shows that he is quite trusted by Rias and Gremory's family. After a moment of contemplation, Akino's uncle finally nodded. Good. The family lord of Heimjima and Agrippa went to the forest to talk, and the other Heimjima clan members stared at Rias and Tenraku and all of them left Rias, Akino, and Tenraku alone. Miss Rias, thank you very much for this time. Tenraku thanked Rias as he was getting supported by Akino. Akino has a very good qualification, she can become my peerage and it will strengthen my peerage, maybe it's me who earned big this time, Rias replied while shaking her head. Well, if only Miss Rias had appeared earlier, it would have been better not to be so timely. Tenraku's slightly complaining voice made Akino on the side helplessly glance at him and Rias blushed. First, you must never enter the territory under our jurisdiction. Second, you and the Gremory family will not act against us in the future. As long as you can abide by these two conditions, we also promise not to take action against you again. No one knew what the two were talking about, but when the Heimjima's lord and Agrippa returned to the temple, they faced Akino and her uncle spoke seriously. Heimjima, can I still keep this surname? Akino asked while biting her lips with complicated feelings in her heart. Suit yourself. It seemed that he didn't want to say more and Akino's uncle threw out a sentence and then took his clan members and turned away. She thought that everything was over, but the Heimjima clan will never act against Akino again, but... Wait. Tenraku's voice stopped her uncle and his party who were about to walk out of the temple. Under the puzzled expression of everyone, Tenraku pointed to Akino's uncle direction with his broken sword and spoke. It is none of anyone's business, but the insult of breaking the sword must be paid back. I will be back to challenge you someday. Tenraku's expression was strangely calm, though he said what he should have said angrily. I'll be waiting for you, boy. With a deep look at Tenraku, Akino's uncle no longer stayed and disappeared with his group of people. The magic circle engraved with the emblem of Gremory's house exudes a touch of softness. After Akino's uncle and his party left, Rias also wanted to take Akino back to Gremory's house. Tenraku, I don't want to leave you. It was already decided, but the time came for them to part ways. Akino realized how reluctant she was and hugged Tenraku tightly, and the tears in her eyes rolled out again. You fool, you will only become a careless tomboy with me, study with Miss Rias at Gremory's house. In the future, you will become as beautiful and strong as your mother, and then wait for me to come back to pick you up. Tenraku said softly while stroking the girl's forehead. The decision to let Rias take Akino was also made by Tenraku after careful consideration. He had no magic talent of his own, nor could he help Akino in training her. Although he is also extremely reluctant to give her up, keeping Akino around all the time will only waste a girl's talent and make her miss the best time to study and train. Of course, the more important point is that he has not yet had the strength to protect Akino. Lord Tenraku, Akino is already in my peerage and I will not return her to you even if you come back in the future. Perhaps she couldn't stand the look of the two of them as Rias' sour voice was heard. Cough, Miss Rias, you should just call me by my name, and please take care of Akino. With a slight cough, the two separated awkwardly and Tenraku said to Rias. Humph, Akino is in my peerage and I will naturally take care of her. Call me Rias, in exchange for this, you will be allowed to call me by my name. Rias replied with a slight hum. Despite the girl's efforts to keep herself look calm as a lady, there was a light blush that couldn't be suppressed. As the eldest girl of the Gremory family, maybe it's the first time she's talked this way to a guy outside the family. With a slightly raised mouth, Tenraku couldn't help but laugh. Who would have thought that this future red-haired princess would beat Tsundere? Tenraku, I will wait for you. Please take care, Lord Tenraku. The time of parting has come and under Tenraku's gaze Akino, Rias, and Agrippa disappeared into the magic formation. Tenraku just felt sad as he stood alone in the empty temple for a long time. He was feeling dazed and lost, but her expression turned firm. No matter how much it costs or how much effort he needs to put, he wants to become stronger than anyone and stand at the apex of this world. Then, he will never let anyone he cherishes leave him. Romania. Straight above the clock tower, a teenager with a sword stood against the wind, and modern buildings full of European atmosphere stood on the ground below him, forming a prosperous and magnificent city. This boy had short black hair, black eyes, and he is standing against the wind. This boy is Tenraku. It has been more than half a year since Akeno and Tenraku parted ways and he embarked on a new journey alone and coming here. When Akeno went out to train in magic, Tenraku, on the one hand, had begun to sharpen his sword arts, but the more important reason he was here was to find the legendary Sacred Gear. Tenraku does not have the ability to practice magic, nor can he awaken the bloodline of his family. Although he has some talent in swords and spirit power, he is still far from being a real genius. Although he has used his own efforts to close some of the gaps, but he alone cannot become the world's top-level powerhouse. Tenraku's true goal has never changed, that is his sacred gear that the mysterious person gave him Sacred Gear Plunder. He can plunder any other sacred gear for his own use, and he doesn't even have to imagine how terrifying this ability is. At the time, he failed to extract Gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor boosted gear not because of his sacred gear, but because he was too weak to withstand the power brought by Along Inu's tools that could destroy God. Since it is not possible to seize the too powerful sacred gear, it is better to seize some weak ones first. Regardless of whether he is alone or traveling with Akeno, Tenraku has never stopped looking for sacred gear information. It's just a pity that although almost 2 years have passed now, he still hasn't captured any sacred gear. Although the reason was clear, Tenraku couldn't help but feel bitter and helpless. It is not yet the original time when sacred gears became like dogs that can be seen walking around in the area. It can be fortunate to be selected by the sacred gear system and endowed with sacred gear. Humans who are endowed with them are rare. Often, 1 in 1 million people may not appear. And even if they are given sacred gears, only a very small part of these people can awaken their sacred gear's ability. Often many sacred gear silently lives in the host's body for a lifetime and then transfer to the next after the host's death without even getting activated. Even so, under the huge race base of human beings, there should still be many owners of sacred gears. It is not difficult for Tenraku to find a few. However, this is not the case. Tenraku needs sacred gears but others also need sacred gears, so when a sacred gears awaken in someone, there will be some organizations and forces that would immediately appear and pull them away, and these guys are all Tenraku competitors. Among all competitors, the most arrogant and the most hated by Tenraku are the fallen angels and church. The current Governor-General of Fallen Angel Azazel is an erotic guy in the Holy Bible who fell because he wanted to catch a woman's breast. It is said that he has enjoyed countless beauties in these long years and he did have many harems and women. It seems that because of too much enjoyment, he became a little bored with women. He turned his interest to the research of sacred gears and also established a fallen angel organization named Watchers of the Children of God to collect sacred gear for him. Any owner of sacred gear discovered by fallen angel will be taken back to him for study, and if he does not want to succumb or feel troublesome, he will directly remove it to eliminate a potential threat. Tenraku had inquired into the owner of a newly awakened sacred gear, and when he was about to get his hands on it, he was suddenly broken by several fallen angel and he finally missed out on sacred gear. In addition to the fallen angels, the church is also doing the same thing. And they are doing this under the slogan of gods and justice, and most of the owners of sacred gear are willing to turn towards them. It's just that those who have surrendered to churches get brainwashed into becoming a believer or they are sliced for research, depending on their own luck. Looking at the scenery of the city below, Tenraku couldn't help but sigh slightly. Since leaving, he embarked on a trip to Europe. This time, he had just heard that a sacred gear owner appeared on the side of Romania. He hoped that this time, the new guy won't be caught up by the fallen angel or the church. "Guest, this is your room, please feel free to tell me what you need." In the hotel, a waiter said to Tenraku. "Okay, thank you." Tenraku closed the door after thanking and sending the waiter off. After eating some food, he went into the bathroom and rinsed his body, and then Tenraku lay tiredly on the bed. He has long become used to sleeping outside but Tenraku couldn't help but miss lying on a big comfortable bed like this. In fact, he is also a man who wants to enjoy wine, food, women, who doesn't want it. It's just that these are all things that you have to have strong strength to have. Those who have no power are still trying to do this. With his eyes closed, Tenraku kept thinking about the sacred gear user. It is said that this guy had awakened his sacred gear and he quickly hid after finding out that he had the power of sacred gear. In addition, the power of the Romania Church and Fallen Angel is very weak here, so he was not found and taken away by any organization and force which gave Tenraku the opportunity to get it for himself. At the cost of a Phenex tear, Tenraku obtained the hiding place of the Sacred Gear Awakener, and he had already finalized his plan. He is only here to recuperate himself and recover his energy. He will officially start tomorrow. Excited by the expectation in his heart, Tenraku quickly fell asleep. Okay? No one knows how long has passed, and Tenraku suddenly opened his eyes. Lie. There was a sharp crack in the air, and in Tenraku's view, a dark figure was coming towards him. His eyes were electric, and years of practice had made Tenraku react quickly. He rolled and dodged his opponent's attack, and then he kicked him out with one foot. A thick muffled sound sounded and the black shadow was hit hard on the ground, and the body shuddered a few times before giving no response. Being careful and alert, Tenraku walked over and kicked the shadow over, and saw that it was a bloodless middle-aged man with two beast-like sharp fangs in his mouth. It turned out to be a vampire. Boom! Just when Tenraku was going to do something, suddenly his neck hurt and his eyes became dark and he collapsed to the ground. At the same time, another dark figure emerged in the room.